Hi guys! In previous section we learned most common problems and exceptions in WebDriver tests. Today we are starting section number 4, Automation Best Practices. In this section we will learn how to write reliable, consistent and efficient tests to make our test automation effort more effective. We will start using TestNG test suites and annotations. We will learn how to use page object model, difference between implicit and explicit weights, and how to use soft assertions. Today, in this video, we will learn how to use TestNG test suites. But before we start talking about test suites, let's first talk about Eclipse TestNG plugin. You probably noticed that I have this plugin in my Eclipse, but I wasn't using it before. Starting today, we will be using it when running tests, so we need to install it. On this page, you can get more info about this plugin. We can click this Install the plugin link to see the instructions. If you are using IntelliJ instead of Eclipse, there is also plugin available here, and I would suggest installing it. Now, when we have TestNG plugins installed, let's talk about test suites. With growing test automation project, we will end up in the place where we need to execute many different tests, maybe different sets of tests for different parts of the application. In TestNG, we cannot define test suites in source code, but it is represented by one XML file. Let's create our first TestNG XML file and use it to run our tests. Let's copy this example from this page and switch to Eclipse. Here in Eclipse, let's right-click on Source Test Resources folder and select New, Other, here File, Next, and let's call it TestNG XML. Finish. And let's paste our test suite here. Now let's add our first test and troubleshooting test to our test suite. So let's go to first test first. So our test, here's the package for our test, so let's copy the package. And here test, let's name our first test suite 1, let's leave it like that, suite 1 is fine. Now here, instead of no package test, let's put compact test dot and then the name of our test. So first test, save. And for the second, let's go to troubleshooting. Let's also uncomment all these test annotations here. So all 4 are uncomment. Save. Ctrl-Shift-O to automatically fix import problems. Okay, save. Now, so compact test the same and troubleshooting is the name of our class. Let's get back to TestNG instead of regression troubleshooting. Here we have 2 classes here, let's remove one. Okay, so our class name, and before class name we need to put the packages. So compact test troubleshooting. Just like that. So now when we run our TestNG XML, it will execute our first test and our troubleshooting test, which includes 4 different tests. When we use TestNG test suites, we can also include and exclude any specific tests. So here, let's fix this. So open class and close class. And here inside of the class, let's put methods and then include. So here we can include specific test from the troubleshooting class. So let's go to troubleshooting. So let's include wait test. So let's copy the name of our wait test method and paste it here. And let's include one more. So include name equals, let's copy visibility test. Go back here and paste include name visibility test and save. So now when we run our test suite, it will execute all test methods inside of the first class, and there is just one method, but if there were more, the Selenium will run all of them. And for our troubleshooting class, Selenium will execute only 2 test methods, wait test and visibility test. And the same way we specify tests to include, we can also exclude test exactly the same way. So exclude and the name. So if we, for example, have 10 tests and we need to run 9 of them, it's easier to exclude 1 than to include 9. So now when we have our test suite ready, so let's save. And now with our TestNG plugin installed, all we have to do is right click on TestNG XML, select Run As, and here select TestNG Suite, and just click on it. And let's see. So it should execute 1 test from first test, so login test, and 2 tests from troubleshooting, weight and visibility. So here's the weight test is running, and the next one will be visibility, and the visibility test. Yep, and now we have our TestNG Eclipse plugin here, and it shows that we executed suite 1, and here's the name of our suite, suite 1, inside of it, first test and troubleshooting. So first test is the name of our test, here first test, and troubleshooting the name of our second test. And we have class, first test class, troubleshooting test class, and the test methods, first test instead of first test class, and 2 of them inside of troubleshooting test class. If we want to run our test not directly from Eclipse using TestNG plugin, but using run configuration, or if we want to run it from command prompt, we need to add some changes to POM.xml file. So here, when we go to POM.xml file, we have this Apache Maven Surefire plugin. We need to configure it to specify here to run TestNG XML file, because otherwise if you're gonna just clean test command, it will run first test or troubleshooting test if you specify troubleshooting test, but you cannot specify TestNG XML file. Let's open Maven Surefire plugin page in the browser, scroll down here to examples, click using TestNG. On this page scroll down to using suite XML files, and let's copy this configuration. And we need to paste this configuration here right under version, and Ctrl-Shift-F to format. Here in the configuration, so we need to add, because our TestNG XML file is not directly inside automated test folder, but under source test resources, we need to add it here. So source, test, and resources / TestNG XML. Now let's save. And let's right click, Maven, update project. Okay. Now let's run our test from the command prompt. So first of all, let's open our automated test project and run Maven clean test command. And let's see here. Okay, test starting, running test suite. Here driver, first test, done. Second test. Page opened, everything seems to be fine, and should be last test, and after this test should be the end. Yep, correct. So test run 3 fails 0. So this time when we executed Maven clean test command, it's new that it's supposed to run test suite. We can create many different test suites and run them separately. Let me show you. Let's create a copy of our TestNG XML file and call it Troubleshooting XML. So copy, paste, instead of TestNG2, Troubleshooting.xml. Here, Troubleshooting XML. So let's remove our first test from here. Let's call it Troubleshooting Suite, Troubleshooting Test, and let's remove methods here. So when we execute this test suite, all methods inside of the troubleshooting class will be executed. Switch to our POM.xml file. So here, if we just run Maven clean test, it will run TestNG XML file. And we do not want to change our POM.xml file every time we need to run test. So what we need to do, let's scroll to the top here, and under description above dependencies, let's put properties. And here under properties, let's create property and call it Suite XML file. Like that. Now, let's scroll down, let's cut this from here and paste it here. So our default Suite XML file will be test.ng.xml. And here, under Maven Surefire plugin configuration, we need to put next. And Suite XML file, which is the name of our property we created here, like that. So our Maven Surefire plugin will execute our Suite XML file property. By default, it's test.ng.xml. So now, when we run test from console, Maven clean test command will execute default suite test.ng.xml, and we can specify any other suite we want to. First, let's open our project directory, and now let's execute troubleshooting XML file. So the command will be maven clean test, and now we need to specify our suite XML file. To do that, let's put d, then the name of our property, so suite XML file, equals, and path to our troubleshooting XML and the name of our troubleshooting XML file. So source test resources / troubleshooting.xml. So let's make sure everything is correct. So source test resources troubleshooting XML looks good to me, and enter. Now if I did not make any mistakes in spelling, so it's running test suite, and 4 tests should be executed, all 4 that are inside of the troubleshooting class. So we have first test, second test, we have third test, so this is hidden element test, and wait test. That's our wait test, and that should be the end. Correct. So we can see here test run 4, failures 0. As we see, all 4 tests in troubleshooting class were executed. Same way we can create Maven run config in Eclipse or set up Jenkins job to run specific suite file.